Hello and welcome to this reading. Thank you for being here. I hope you're all well. As I'm sitting down to record this reading, I've got a message coming through, a phrase which is interesting, which is all roads lead to Rome. So I feel like this is about pathways and choices and opportunities, potentials, different timelines, different ways that we can move forwards. So if you're in a space right now where you feel like you're at a crossroads, or maybe it's even more than four directions, it's like all of these different paths going in different ways, twisting and turning. I just want to say at the beginning of this reading that all of these paths, any path that you choose, is going to lead to where you want to go eventually. I do get a sense from the collective that I'm reading for here that you've already made a choice. You've picked a path with heart in the past. You've decided what it is that you truly want. And I get that sense of destination with that. I also get the sense that when you get there, there's going to be another choice and there will be other things that you want to move towards. But for this moment, this reading is about that choice that you've already made of the thing that you want to manifest in your life, the experience that you want to manifest. So I really like that the phrase all roads lead to Rome has come through, because it means that any path that you walk down is going to take you there. I will say different paths lead us on shorter or longer journeys. We always learn. It doesn't matter which path we take, which path we choose, we always learn some lessons along the way, and we'll probably have some happy moments, some heartache, some good experiences, some bad experiences. The main thing is actually just focusing on the journey as we're walking that path and keeping that destination in mind, but making sure that we're not only focusing all of our energy on that destination, that we do have energy kept for this present moment so that we can decide which way to navigate next. So I'm going to start pulling some cards and see what else wants to come through in this message. Yeah, we've got the Three of Pentacles, and in this deck there's a man here who is steadily working towards something. He's creating beautiful things. He's creating these what look like torques here that would be worn around the neck, usually by the Celts very often. Could also be bracelets as well, but there's this sense, I just heard the words wearing it well. So whatever it is that you're going through at the moment, it might feel confusing or maybe messy and chaotic sometimes, but you're actually wearing it well is what I'm hearing. So I just had a swan come through then, like the gracefulness of a swan moving along a lake or a river and looking just so graceful and peaceful and beautiful, and yet underneath, like, they're paddling away with their feet, their webbed feet, pushing themselves forwards, propelling themselves forwards. I just heard the words get into the slipstream, so that's interesting. I was thinking then, as I was saying about the webbed feet of the swan, that sometimes, if they're going with the river, if they're being taken downstream, they're not going to need to paddle as much if they're in that kind of slipstream, that movement, moving forwards. But sometimes we want to get to somewhere that is upstream, let's say, thinking about salmon as well, going to spawn upstream to lay their eggs. And that's quite a famous example, or a common example of trying to get somewhere and it being difficult, that's swimming upstream. And sometimes it's necessary. We can't always be just going downstream. Sometimes we need to get somewhere in order to do something, maybe in order to plant a seed for the future. So then we have to paddle. So it might be a little bit more effort that needs to be exerted moving forwards. So all of these paths that I'm picking up on, this whole all roads lead to Rome, it's time to pick a path. It's time to choose a path. If you feel like you've been kind of waffling over what to do, or not knowing what it is that you're supposed to be doing, or which path to take, maybe there's no such thing as the right path to choose right now, and it's more about picking one, seeing what happens. If it doesn't work out, you can always get onto another path, This isn't a life or death situation that I'm talking about here. It's more about wanting to move towards a particular thing, as I said. I will say as well that with the Three of Pentacles, like, this is a very skilled worker. He knows what he's doing. He's creating these things over and over again. They're not likely to be exactly identical, but he's working to a formula. He's working to a way that he has learned. He's learned this skill over time. Maybe he had it passed down to him. So there could be something around ancestry here as well, around wisdom being passed down. Could even be wealth. Could be ancestral wealth coming through the pipeline spiritually, energetically, so to speak. And, you know, when you get out of your own way and you actually start moving and move out of stagnation, then this wealth can start to come through to you. This could be physical material wealth, as in money, or inheriting jewelry or that kind of thing, or property maybe, or a car or whatever. It could also be the inheritance of wisdom, earthly, practical wisdom, that you can ask for support with those things from your ancestors. You know, how do I move through this? How do I move through this challenging time? How do I make this decision? And the thing is that the ancestors, our guides, are never going to make decisions for us. That can be a little bit frustrating, I think, for some people, maybe even myself sometimes, where maybe we want someone else to make the decision. You know, we're asking for a sign, asking for a symbol, asking for synchronicities, asking what we should do. And if you're coming to that point where you're asking these questions and you're meeting a wall of silence, you're meant to figure it out for yourself. And it's not always easy. And if it's a path that we haven't walked before, then how are we meant to know what to do, right? So in my last reading, I was talking about the messages from the Fae that were coming through, the fairy folk, and they were talking about that as well. Yeah, so we don't always know what to do. And it's funny, it's kind of like a paradox, because we may not believe that we know what to do. Intuitively, we do know what to do. And sometimes that doing is about non-doing. So a lot of this can feel a little bit confusing. And I will say, if you're feeling tangled up in your mind, it's always a good time to take a break and stop overthinking everything. Go for a walk, get moving, do something enjoyable, switch off from it for a while. And then, you know, sometimes it's almost like sneaking up on a question unawares. So you could be going over and over and over around the same questions, spinning your wheels in your mind. And then you go away and you take your mind off it. You could even have a nap, whatever. And then all of a sudden, just kind of go, what should I do? And ask your heart. And then you'll get like a quick flash of an answer. That's quite it's an acquired skill. It's something that you need to build over time. And I will say as well that if there are any blocks, like big blocks around a certain area of your life, maybe around finances or around love or many different things, it could be anything, that sometimes it's not always as easy as I just said to just drop in and ask the question and get the answer, because, as I said, blocks are literally, you know, what they sound like. They are a block. It's the kind of like a wall between us and what we need to know, because of beliefs that we've picked up through our lives, and patterns and programming and all of these things. Can also be things from past lives as well. So let's pull another card. Yeah, Eight of Swords. This is what I was just talking about, this mental block. So this is confirming to me, having pulled this card, that this is what's happening at the moment. And maybe as you're standing in this space energetically and seeing all of these different roads and paths that you could go down, you could be coming to a place of analysis paralysis, as it's called, where you're analysing things so much from a place of fear, because this only comes from a place of fear, of making the wrong decision, of pain sometimes, physical, emotional, spiritual pain, mental pain sometimes. Sometimes, we're standing there, and in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith version of this card, there's a woman standing with these swords in front of her, and there are gaps in the swords. It's not a closed fence. It's not that she can't get out. It's that she believes that she can't get out, and that's the difference. So, if we're standing here in this space energetically, looking at all these pathways, and each one we could come up with a reason as to why it won't work. Oh no, I can't do that because, oh no, I can't do that because, and I can't do that because. And what we're doing is essentially placing those swords in front of ourselves, stopping ourselves from moving forwards. That can be a very frustrating place to be. And I will say, if that's the case, then there is likely a deep held belief, some kind of block, some dense energy that we're carrying around that is causing us to come up with these excuses. And as I said, this is all based around fear. If we weren't afraid of what might happen, then we'd just be like, oh, well, I'll just pick this one, we'll see what happens, right? So what is it we're afraid of? That's a good question. What is it we are afraid will happen if we pick any of these paths? We could look to see, what are we afraid of for each individual path? What's the worst that could happen? And how would we handle that if it happened? And the funny thing is about this is, when we've come so far on our journey, is we can ask ourselves, well, what would I do if that happened? So say, for example, you're going to go for a certain type of job, and you go through this in your mind. Okay, so what's the worst could happen? I could go to this job, I could hate the job, it could be really horribly uncomfortable, I might not like the co-workers, it could be the wrong job for me. Well, that's okay, then you continue for as long as you need to while you look for another job. And then there could be a belief of like, well, there aren't any other jobs. And then I would say, well, you managed to get that one, so you'll manage to get another one. There are people with jobs, and there are people applying for jobs and getting jobs. So it is possible to get a job, right? So it's just like, okay, well, actually that is possible. One thing I will say about that, though, is that we can also get stuck in that. Having these conversations with these parts of ourselves that are like, no, I'm not doing it, can sometimes just kind of feed that energy. So it's good to write all of that down, those kind of dialogues that we can have with ourselves, and get it all out on paper, look at it, stand back, and a lot of the time it looks like, well, it doesn't make any sense, why would I think that? And then go into the emotions, like drop in and just feel into, where is this block in my body? You can sit quietly in meditation and just ask, what is this that's happening? Where does this come from? Where is this coming from? And there could be something way back that we've experienced that has made us feel this way, to not feel safe, or to perhaps not trust ourselves to make the right decision moving forwards. It does feel to be a kind of energy of a lack of trust, maybe, in yourself, if you're wanting to move forwards, not trusting that you can handle anything that comes towards you in life. But as I said, all roads lead to Rome. So I keep just getting this, pick a path with heart, pick a path with heart. So pick the one that feels the best. Maybe none of them feel perfect, which is unlikely because nothing is perfect. But which one feels the least awful? Maybe have a go at that one. Okay, and then we've got the Queen of Pentacles. And the first phrase I heard with this is, all will be provided. You just got to start moving, because the more we sit in stagnation, the more we get into these cycles, the more we think, the more we analyse, and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and we get bogged down. But I'm hearing all will be provided. It's that vision, that image we can have of stepping onto a step, and we can't see the ones ahead, like a stepping stone going across a river, for example. Imagine there's mist there, and you step onto the stepping stone, and then as you step onto that one, gradually the mist clears and you can see the next stepping stone. It's like, okay, so I can go onto that step. And it could take a while for the mist to clear each time, but the main thing is that you're moving. take action, move. It doesn't have to be busy, take action all the time either. It's like a balance of action and rest, I feel, is going to be the best way to move forwards. So the woman in this card, you know, she's very abundant, very, I'm going to say fertile is the word that's coming through, and she has this apple and she's received this through the harvest, and she's just moving with nature is what I'm hearing. I'm just looking at these leaves up here as well. She looks like she's got these autumnal leaves around, which is a good sign. In the Northern Hemisphere, we're in autumn at the moment, so this is telling me that this is the time to move forwards. This is the time to take these, even if they're mini actions, it's the time to move. Keep that momentum going is what I'm hearing, because otherwise, like I said, we can stagnate. And that can be quite a painful space to be, spiritually, I would say, and emotionally, because everything is meant to move. Everything changes all the time. We're always shifting. The cells in our body are dying off and new ones are being created. The leaves fall from the trees and they're regenerated. There are all these things that take place. Nothing is ever completely still or stagnant. Even like a solid piece of wood, like this that my tripod is standing on, that is actually moving as well. You know, it's all of these tiny particles moving and shifting, but very slightly, so things look solid, right? Slightly different with water. They move a bit more quickly, and I won't give you a science lesson, but it's just, what I'm saying is that everything moves and everything needs to move and change, or it dies, essentially. The things that aren't moving anymore are dead, and we don't want to feel that sense of death, to be stuck in that place of death and not having anywhere to go. Okay, interesting now, we've got mountains, stand your ground. So this is interesting with what I was just talking about with the solidity of things. Even mountains are moving. They are standing their ground, they've been there for a very long time, but even the molecules within the rock, the stone within the mountain, they're all moving, they're alive, everything is alive. And why would we keep ourselves in a place of stuckness and deadness, is that a word, deadness, when we can move? So I feel like breathwork's going to be really helpful here. I felt to take a big inhale then, like breathing in and just let everything out. Breathe deeply into your lungs, as deep as you can, as is comfortable for you, depending on your own capacity. And then you could hold for a few seconds and let go. What this is doing is accessing those little pockets, maybe at the bottom of our lungs, that might be holding stale air. So again, we've got this sense of being stagnant. And then breathing out until you can't breathe out anymore, emptying out the lungs of stagnant air, and breathing in the fresh and the new. So I'm noticing here we've got the mountains. It looks here like they're underneath the ground, you can see there, and then you've got above the ground, as above so below. I feel like clearing out our insides energetically is going to help to clear out our outside, the things that are taking place in our life. Okay, I'm going to go with this deck now. I've got the Wildwood Tarot. What else do we need to know? Knight of Arrows, the Hawk. I just heard the words keen observation. So be observant. In order to be observant, we need to be present. So as I was talking about before, about needing to be in the present moment to be able to make clear decisions. It's interesting because if we think about anxiety, for example, anxiety is about worrying, basically, being afraid of something that's going to happen in the future. So if we're in anxiety, then we're in the future. We are worrying that that thing will happen if we take one of these paths, and that robs us of our energy because we're giving our power to something that may not even happen. So I feel the sense of presence here. This is the Knight of Arrows, which is the Knight of, this is the Knight of Arrows, which is the Knight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords is a very active card. The Knight of Swords is fast, it's swift. If you think about the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, if you're familiar with that, it's a knight on a horse, and he's moving quickly. It's almost like lightning. He's getting to where he wants to go. And I'm just thinking about the hawk. The hawk is sitting still here in this card, but when this hawk sees prey, when they're hovering in the sky and they see what they want to catch, to eat, they are quick. And usually whatever they're catching doesn't have a clue what's happening until they're caught, right? So it is about that observance, observing what's taking place, observation, and then swiftly making a move when we get that feeling that it's time to go. So there's something about instinct here as well, something about not trusting our instincts. So let's actually ask about that. How can we more deeply trust ourselves, trust our instincts moving forwards? You know, if the hawk hovered in the sky and they saw, I don't know, like a mouse or a vole or something on the ground, and instead of going with that, whoa, spark, I'm going to go, and they just went, then that prey has probably gone into a hole or under a bush or whatever, okay? So this really is about us trusting our instincts. So what's blocking us from that? What's the difficulty around this? Got the Queen of Bows, the Hare. What I'm picking up from this card, and I wouldn't usually say this about the Queen of Bows or Wands, but I'm looking at the imagery in this card, there's kind of like a stiffness, like a frozen kind of energy with this hare. And if you think about, if you've ever walked into a field, say, and there's a rabbit or a hare, and they just stop and they go stiff and they freeze, eventually they might run away, but their immediate reaction often is to freeze. So there could be something about a freeze response here that's making it difficult for us to follow our instincts. So I talked about the hawk then being up in the sky, and if the hawk freezes, that's definitely not going to help. You know, that they are in movement even though they're hovering, okay? So they're keeping themselves up by little motions, let's say, little movements that keep them in the sky. If they were dead, if there was no animation in them whatsoever, they would just fall from the sky, right? So there are little tiny movements and adjustments that are taking place in order for them to hover in the sky. So even though, again, they look still, there's something going on. It's like I was talking about the particles of things moving within solid items. So I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, so let's snap back. Freezing, something about freezing, going into freeze mode when the Queen of Bows, you know, in her fullness, in her true energy, this warmth, she's the Queen of Wands, this is fire, she is passionate, she's clear and warm, and she knows, again, I'm getting this sense of instinct, she knows when to take action, she knows where to move to, and there's something there about intuition that I'm picking up on, like a spiritual sense, like a sixth sense I'm picking up on, of knowing when to move and what to do. Yeah, so I'm feeling to pull one more card. I'm just looking at which deck to go with. Okay, I'm going to go with the Mystical Shaman Oracle, which is a beautiful deck, so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes through here. I just heard you know what to do. Deep down, intrinsically, fundamentally, you know what to do. There's a case of just needing to find that trust. And I just had this feeling then of, I was about to say, think about the times when you've trusted yourself and you've gone into doing a particular thing and it's worked out really well. And I felt a bit of a pushback. So someone or some of you in the collective might immediately go to times when you've taken action and it's gone wrong, and you've moved through something really horribly difficult because of it. There's no such thing as a wrong decision, first of all. And try to redirect yourself. If you move towards like a negative thought of, oh yeah, and then this happened and that went wrong, so I can't really trust myself, and come back to, yeah, but actually remember that time when I took that action and something really, really positive happened. And I'm sure there'll be some of those in your lives. There's no way that you've all only ever made decisions that have led to bad things. There will have been good, positive things in all of the situations if we dig deep enough, if we scratch the surface enough. So, closing message, we've got the spiral. Okay, so this is telling me that within these messages, there's something about coming back around to lessons over and over again. And that can get a little bit frustrating sometimes. And we think, oh, God, I thought I dealt with this. Why is this coming up again? Because there's still a seed of it within us. Interestingly, when I look at that, when it's not on the screen, there's no heart in the middle. But when I look at it in the screen, it's almost like a green heart. I don't know if you can see that. That's what I'm seeing with my mind's eye. So there's some kind of heart-based learning that we're moving through at the moment, some kind of clearing as well. And we probably will have cleared some of this before, and now we're coming back around to remove another layer. There seem to be quite deeply held beliefs connected to the theme of choice and fear of making the wrong choice. Maybe this is connected to relationships for some of you. Maybe you've chosen people to be in a relationship with in the past that have hurt you, maybe actually literally physically, or emotionally, mentally, spiritually even. And you've done that again and again and again. And what I'm feeling though, there's a kind of break here where you've been moving away from that. You have moved away from that for some time. But there's this fear of making a wrong decision again. Like I said, this could be relationships, jobs, work, business, family. It could be whatever, anything. We all have different things going on. But there is something around the heart here. And I just heard financial decisions for some of you as well. So maybe the fear of making the wrong financial decision, maybe like an investment or a purchase or something like that. And the heart is related to abundance and wealth in that sense, as well as love, as well as relationship and connection to others. It's also connected to abundance, and that's why those two can sometimes go hand in hand. If we think about the planet Venus, for example, she is related to both of those things. Wealth, money, finance, and also love, relationship, valuing whatever we value deeply. So I just heard then as well, follow your values. They're not going to lead you far wrong, if at all. So one last example, if these many different paths were job opportunities, for example, and you are vegan, let's say, or vegetarian, you're not going to go for a job as a butcher or in an abattoir, a slaughterhouse, right? Does not match your values, doesn't make any sense, so that's a no. That's quite an obvious kind of, black and white kind of example, but that's what I'm talking about. What are your values? Let's say that you don't agree with like big corporations and faceless corporations. Are you going to go and work then for a big corporation? If you do, is it going to sit right with you? Are you going to be able to live with yourself every day? So there's something about values. Okay, one more card. Which deck? Okay, there's something about values coming through. And I just heard family values. So I'll just pull one more and then we'll move on. 6 of Cups. Yeah. something about the past. And of course, generally, when we have blocks or these patterns or whatever, then they will be from the past. They're things that we're bringing forward with us from the past that probably have no place in our future. This feels to be around the relationship example that I used. So, I don't know, say you were lucky enough, let's say, to have potential suitors, let's put it that way, like in the olden days. But you can see that one person is actually very chaotic and that would not suit you. Then you don't choose that path. They could be beautiful, inspiring, amazing, incredible people, but they're chaotic, and you know that that really wouldn't suit your own energy. So that's, unfortunately, you know, it's going to have to be a no, and that's because that will keep you safe. And that's your instinct to say you need to be kept safe from that kind of energy. There could be another person who does a lot of things that you don't agree with, or that don't match with your own values, or they behave in a way that don't match your own values, so you wouldn't go for that person either. And if I'm just going to say this now, because this is going to be for some of you, it seems like quite a strong message. If none of the people, potential people, or people you may be attracted to, match your values and what feel right for you in your heart, there's nothing wrong with staying single. It's better to choose yourself and to remain by yourself than to choose any of these people out of a sense of I should be with someone or some kind of desperation. And when I said family values before, when that came through, I think that's resonant for some of you around family values of this is what you do. You get to a certain age, you meet someone, you get married, or you get engaged, then you get married, then you have children, you buy a house together, all of these things. It could be what your family taught you as you grew up, or what you observed growing up, and even just in society, but I'm especially feeling this from family. And if you are outside of that, if you lie outside of that system, that way of approaching life, sometimes that can feel a little bit lonely. But there are other people that are also not doing all of those things and doing their own thing. But choosing you is the most important thing. Okay, so there are different messages for different people here. Maybe some of these apply to all of you, maybe some of them just apply to some. But yeah, hopefully this has been helpful to you. Remember, all roads lead to Rome. You will find your way. Trust yourself to find your way. We always do, even if it feels difficult at times, and especially when we're moving through times where we're discovering these blocks and these patterns within ourselves, they become more pronounced. And so just be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, do the things that make you feel fulfilled and happy, and keep coming back to your heart. And that was a similar message yesterday from the fairy folk as well, coming back to your heart over and over again. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this video. I always appreciate all of you being here. And if you want a private reading, I do have the links below in the description. And also I'm on Instagram as well, and the link's down there if you want to check that out. You can also make a donation if you feel to, if this has been helpful to you. There's a link to my PayPal down below as well, or you can buy me a coffee. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day or evening or night or whatever time it is with you. And I'll speak to you all again soon. Much love. Bye-bye.